as you grow into more involution, it starts to pervade in every single aspect of your life.
Arnaud Saint-Paul, the founder and CEO of the Heart Leadership Institute, Tapuat, is a conscious leadership architect with over 40 years of transforming success into meaningful conscious impact. He has guided hundreds of leaders and inspired millions.
Remember 7 pillars? Strongest one was purpose. And their pillar purpose, I think, is 20+% more coherent than our baseline, which is our community.
Do you have an example kind of what the tangible outcomes were for them when they decided to engage you and then the entire team decided to actually make some conscious shifts? Welcome to the Purpose Profit Shift, where real stories about bold shifts illuminate how we can create a new economy. I'm your host, Rachel Bernier-Green, social entrepreneur, activist, and founder of EJ Consortium, a finance consulting firm designed to help purposeful businesses change the world. Today's guest walked away from 350% returns as a finance trader to pursue what might be the most audacious mission I've ever heard: opening 1 billion hearts to themselves. Arnaud Saint-Paul is a former serial tech entrepreneur who spent 20 years raising millions and winning innovation awards across Europe and the US before making a radical pivot. Now, as founder of the Heart Leadership Institute and creator of the AI-powered Heart Leadership Index, he's proving what he calls the ROI of the heart, that inner coherence creates measurable business results. From teaching children financial literacy through Give Nation to building the global heart economy movement, Arnaud is pioneering a new paradigm where purpose and profit aren't as odds, they're quantum entangled. Let's dive in. Arnaud, thank you so much for joining me.
Wow, thank you so much. I love the summary that you made. I'm going to have to hire you.
It's always, I love guests who have lived fascinating lives, but it's very different when someone, summarizes the entirety of your life and hits all of the highlights in a couple seconds. It feels a bit different than the lived experience.
Yes, yes. Oh, of course, I guess so. And then, yeah, we all have a different point of view, and it's beautiful to see how one's life can be read from different angles. So it's always
I
exciting.
love that. So you have lived this, what in my mind is kind of a fascinating paradox for decades. Wildly successful in the what you've called the not very spiritual realms of tech and finance. And, you've traded virtual currency while simultaneously traveling the world, studying consciousness and philosophy. And most people, those seem like completely separate worlds. But can you talk about how you balanced those two realities of kind of the consciousness and philosophy on one side, and then also the trading and finance, and what finally made that integration non-negotiable for you?
That's an amazing question. I mean, I would say with difficulty, with a lot of pain, because it's like starting two journeys, and they are very separate. So you kind of have I wouldn't say maybe we're not schizophrenic, but it's kind of have a bipolar kind of a way of living life. On one side, the outer life with technology, startups, and trading commodities and currencies and whatnot. On the other, finding oneself, the journey that I started when I was 13. So it has been a long journey. It was a non-negotiable journey by itself, and very quickly it became evident that I needed to find a way to live it from my heart, how to lead my life from my heart. So how did it started to merge, I guess, and to
Yeah.
become more of a oneness kind of thing? It's, as you grow into more what I call involution, it starts to pervade in every single aspect of your life. And one thing that I discovered very early on is that my life, my day to day, the events, the conversations are actually amazing signposts to
Mhm.
help you discover myself further and be a better human on one side, but also a better manager or a better leader, and be more successful in business too, because this is part of what life is. It's all about expansion,
Yes.
right? It's about vibrancy. It's about living fully. And so when I discovered that this life is really nudging me gradually in that direction, it helped me to really start living both together.
Yeah.
And so that's how also came together the framework that I had to build throughout time to understand not only my relationship to myself, but also to
Yeah.
the different ventures I was having and the relationship to the others and reality in general, and find some method that will help me to really live in coherence with my life, right? The different
Right.
hiccups and challenges that will come up and show me, hey, here you're not going in the right direction. Here that's working, and so on, which any entrepreneur is doing anyway, right? But
Right.
we're adding a new dimension to it where I would say instead of facing myself through the challenges, I look at the challenges as a gift for me to release something and at the same time
Yes.
transform that challenge into something new that allows me to go beyond it. And it's not just an experiential aspect, it is also a reality, meaning that the reflection, the challenge itself can shift and change according to whatever new alignment that I chose, that new coherence of mind, right? So to answer the last part of your question, it's about 12 years ago. So after 25, 30 years of, living this double life, that, starting the new startup, what's the point? Whether it's technology or finance, making more money or creating new startup, what is really meaningful to me?
Yeah.
And so whether you call it the crisis of the 40s or of the 50s, I don't know. But the bottom line is it happened. And I realized that what really is meaningful for me, so it's a very egotistic point of view from that viewpoint, is to see a heart open. In other words, helping an individual to find a new level of coherence within themselves,
Mm.
when all of a sudden, poof, something emerges that is a new coherence, a new way of being that fosters potential new developments in the person's life, and the person can see it right away in the
Yeah.
next few days. So it's really magical. So that is my passion to bring that level of coherence. And at that time, I decided, so I was in Silicon Valley and, I have that technology and finance past. Say, well, let's do it for 1 billion people. Well, while we're there, right? I can do it for one.
If we're gonna go, let's go big or go home.
Yeah, it's more fun for the journey. And so
Yeah.
that's what brought about the first Give Nation, which was more, it's a nonprofit which is here to help kids to learn sustainable financial literacy, but also
Love that.
to educate adults in BIPOC communities, for instance, to lead through the heart as well. And then the Heart Leadership Institute to establish the credibility around what we call heart leadership, and
Yes.
ways not only to train, but also to measure how we are becoming more coherent throughout our life. And,
Yes.
you know, coherence is a beingness, right? It's a state of being. It can be happening through gardening, through yoga practice, through meditation, through any method. It happens that ours brings people to a new level,
Yeah.
completely different. But everybody is on that journey towards more coherence. In any case, it's our nature, it's part of life. And there nobody had created so far a scale that would help a
Yeah.
person to know where he or she stands on that journey, to map out what is the next step or the next steps. And so
And I love that.
what we devised is uh, heart leadership expresses itself through 7 pillars, which are presence, inner peace, inner joy, non-attachment, selflessness, unity, and purpose. These 7 pillars, for me, define most of the human experience. And they are, any diversity, culture you may think of, we all go through exactly the same experiences from that viewpoint. And so we're measuring through a little questionnaire against these 7 pillars. Where do you stand in this moment? And then 6 months from now, 12 months from now, you can measure again and see how you are progressing on whatever work you're going through, and whether you're doing some transformational leadership or servant leadership or any type of leadership for that matter. And we are here now to provide not only that scale for individuals, but also for teams, organizations,
Okay.
communities, so that we can see how coherence, when I have that inner coherence, I think we all start from the understanding. Common sense tells us that the more coherence I invite in my day to day, the more impact I'm having.
Yeah.
That you, me, we can feel it right away. It's self-evident. At a company level, it actually is true. We can prove today that the more coherence in an organization, the more financial, social, environmental impact the company has. And that's what we're
Absolutely.
here to demonstrate over time as we move forward on our journey. And that is, I believe, an amazing path for business to take, because the more we embody that coherence, the more personal, cultural, societal impact we're going to
Yeah.
have collectively. So, and I would love to see a world that is led by heart. That would be awesome.
As would I. Now, I'd love to I'm glad that you kind of laid out for the listeners kind of the journey, from kind of where you started to what you've created. But I wanna take things back for just a moment because
Yes.
one of the things I found, to be absolutely fascinating while I was, prepping for this interview is that you have described having this kind of spiritual awakening as a teenager, and that was kind of what launched the relentless quest to answer, "Who am I?" And that really shaped a lot of the experiences that happened, over the next decades. So what happened at 13? And kind of like, tell us how that, shaped everything that came after.
I guess some circumstances also, there was probably inside me some consciousness that was there ready to arise. But the external circumstances was basically I was offered a choice. Basically, my reality was telling me there is, the question was about where is God? And
Mm.
it was offered to me that it has to go through, the church and
Mhm.
certain cultures, not cultures, processes like prayers and so on and so forth. And for
Mhm.
me, that didn't make sense at all. And that's when I choose for the very first time. That's why I'm saying it happened at that time. I
Okay.
chose for the very first time this the truth that I felt inside that was more true than what was offered outside.
Okay.
And so it's that moment where that inner truth supersedes the outer one. And that's the first step towards exploring further what could be
Okay.
the other truths. And that led me to also this feel the other truth that I need to lead my life through my heart. There's no other way. That didn't happen at 13. It took me a while, but I got there. And
Yes, I mean
then I moved from there.
yeah, it is always a journey. Even when we look back and reflect on it, it seems as if it happened a bit more quickly. So one thing that has been I've been very curious about is tell me about people's reaction when having spent decades in tech and finance, decided now you want to talk about heart spirit. How did people react to that shift?
I haven't seen any difference.
Okay.
Uh, I wouldn't be able to answer your question because so far, no change.
Which is great. It's always interesting to me when people make these big shifts in their life. Sometimes the people around them are fully on board, and sometimes they're surprised at the shift or a little bit shocked. And so I always just like to check.
The
But
thing is, your question is interesting in the sense that in our framework, what we are led to understand and to experience is that this non-acceptance of the new path, as that you were portraying just now,
yeah.
is usually, no, it's not usually, it's always uh, uh, a signal of how much I accept my own new purpose in this case.
Mm,
And so for me, it was self-evident, and there was absolutely no resistance to the new path. So that's why there was no manifestation of that in that process, right? But yeah.
I love that. And so, another thing that you have talked about is experiencing multiple rebirths, and that some can be traumatic, that most are transformative. And you've said that traumas are amazing contrasts that enable us to crystallize the opportunity of choice. So, for leaders listening who are in the middle of their own difficult transformation right now, and maybe they're questioning everything because they think everything feels like it's falling apart, how did you learn about navigating those ruptures? And how do you know when discomfort is growth versus when it means that you actually are misaligned and you're off the path you should be on?
Rachel, you're doing an amazing job at preparing. Wow. Amazing. And great question, by the way. Every single challenge or walls, as we could call them also, are always a gift. Always.
Yeah.
What may happen is that the point of view from which we are looking at them is one of resistance or one of, I don't want to live that, or of victimhood or of any
Yeah.
kind. But there is another point of view that we can choose. It has to be a conscious choice at first that allows me to see that issue. Let's say the CEO of a startup that is not able to raise money for his startup, right? So just to
Yeah.
take an example, nobody is available to put money, whatever. It is an opportunity. There is a gift there. Because one of the things that I had to learn throughout all the years is that every single circumstance is always perfect. Always. We talk about the wisdom of the heart.
Hmm.
And I really believe that, in the sense that our heart or our life, to make it more tangible, is bringing us exactly the circumstances we're ready for in this very moment. And so, with that beautiful Play Doh, what can I do with it? And maybe the shift I need to make is not for life to change, but for me to shift my alignment
Mm.
and see it from another viewpoint. So, to go back to the example of the failed fundraising, it calls in any case for, okay, maybe I need to shift the angle of my communication, or what I'm doing is the wrong way. That's one aspect. But it's also is, why is it that I'm not ready to accept
Mm.
funds, right? What is the resistance within me
Yeah.
that is being shown to me in this moment? Because the reality is that in this moment, nobody is giving me money, right? To take that example.
Right.
And so the wise entrepreneur would first look at this part of himself that is not allowing that to happen, help him release that energy that is not needed anymore, so that he can get more alignment with the potential of raising funds. I always say to our clients and our cohorts is that there's absolutely no business challenge whatsoever that is not linked to the alignment of a person. In other words,
Mm.
every single conversation situation we're living is always a reflection of something that we need to live in this moment, that is symbolically meaningful to us, emotionally meaningful to us, and that is translated into a business challenge. To give you an example, a CEO who is helping a lot of people in the world, a very, very giving man, um, was being sued by some people that he was helping, which is kind of a paradox, right? And seems
Hmm.
a bit off key, we would say. And working with him, we found out that it's the kind of situation he was living as a child between his mother and father. And so symbolically, this was needed. This lawsuit was needed for him to release that emotional package that was there. And so that is the opportunity for him to do it. And that's what he did. And therefore the lawsuit started to shift. It became a settlement, and it became much easier outcome. So we have an amazing power as human beings to listen intently to life. And this is exactly what we share in our method, and realize what it is really about, not what is face value, this the provider so and so did this or the competition did that, but more realizing that there is this or that within me that is calling for it, that I am aligning with. And by releasing that, then all of a sudden the path clears, so to speak, not only within me where I don't feel any more guilt or whatever, but also in my actual experience in the day to day. And I can talk hours about that. So I'm not going to impose you on that.
Well, I mean, it's the scenario you just described seems like it is a great example of the Heartful method, because the Heartful method is this synthesis of quantum physics, neuroscience, business pragmatism, Eastern philosophy, and it's just all kind of mixed together. Um, what made you like, because those feel pretty disparate. How did you get to the point where you started to weave all of that together into a framework that kind of clicked?
Wow. That started when I started at 18 or 19 or
Mm.
that. I started the journey of getting onto the different philosophies, practices, quantum physics, and so on and so forth. For coherence, it's not views of the mind. It is something that is like, imagine that bubble or that beautiful ball, and there's no asperity. It's coherent, right? The ball is coherent. I think we can agree on that. A
Yeah.
cube, maybe not that much, but a ball, yes, it makes sense. And so, go through my inquiry, I guess, digest all this information, and see how it applies to my day-to-day life. More very important, because what we are talking about is super pragmatic and practical, so much so that people that are not pragmatic and practical don't get it. So we need like very, very pragmatic and practical people. And then from that place, all of a sudden, poof, an understanding happens, a knowing
Mhm.
happens. And so I had to draw it, to anchor it, and
Yeah.
have a better understanding. And that's what became nowadays the method. It's that collection of drawings
Oh,
that
really?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it helps leaders to really rewire their relationship to themselves and to their reality. But at the deepest level, at the vibrational level, more than the communication level or the business tactics,
Mhm.
all that were not taking into account, because they are just a consequence of the vibrational level. So, well, it's really a path that is universal, that applies to absolutely everything in life, and that I wish everybody would learn how to fish with, so that they embody and a wholehearted life.
So let's talk about, and well, first we're going to grab some pictures, I think, of the method, if you have some to share, because I would love
Sure.
to. I think that would help people to kind of connect the dots. But I'd love to talk about this idea of the ROI of the heart, because I like this reframe. And so you've now measured, I think, over 500 leaders through your Heart Leadership Index across the 7 pillars of coherence that you described earlier. So tell us a little bit about what you're seeing in that data that's starting to, and what patterns emerge when you measure coherence instead of just productivity, which is typically what we find ourselves measuring in business.
So yeah, it is fascinating, and we're just starting to scratch the surface of that. And I'm already amazed by what's coming up, and not because our we did it, but just the richness of what is there is amazing.
I can imagine.
It's super exciting. So yes, we are measuring hundreds of people throughout the years, and also lately we went into a conference, a Forum for Impact, which gathers only family offices, and we did on live a study with them, and that was awesome. And we just rolled out a study that is fascinating about that. And one of the things that we saw and that the angle that we had was from an investor standpoint, so from a financial standpoint, how does that pan out, right? How are these leadership qualities related to the famous pillars we were talking about are impacting the triple bottom line or the quadruple or whichever bottom lines you want to
Yeah.
talk about. Doesn't matter. Same. And it was fascinating in so many ways to see not only the coherence of it all and how it worked out from a number standpoint, but also what we were able to unveil from that. And I'm happy to send you the information and see all the numbers and all that stuff. It's
Oh, I'd love that. I love looking at data.
yeah, with pleasure. 70 pages is of numbers. It's very interesting. Anyway, the bottom line, what I remember from all that is two things. One, the organizer had told us previously that one of the or the main issue that these family city office have, which is about impact, right? They are impact
Mhm.
investors, is that they have obviously an amazing purpose of helping people and achieve the environmental or social goals, but they are getting into burnout very quickly.
Yes.
And because of all the challenges they have to face, then some of them are regulatory, others are taxes, and so on and so forth, and the resistance of people in general to do so. So and then, okay, perfect. I didn't know it was how it was going to pan out in the data, but then we went through having uh, up to 50 family offices to fill in this Heart Leadership Index that I mentioned on the fly in the event because it only takes 5 minutes, so it's all good. And the data that came out actually translated that. So remember
Mm.
7 pillars?
Yes.
And the strongest one was purpose. And it was, and their pillar purpose was 20, I think it's 20 plus percent more coherent than our baseline, which is our community. So there's a clear difference related to usual leaders and impact leaders. There's already something. And their non-attachment was the weakest one,
Mm.
which leads obviously to burnout because when we are attached to result,
Yeah.
then there's a gap, then all of a sudden, boom, we get into more difficulties. So we started to work on that right away, and hopefully it was helpful to them. But so that was the one of the beautiful discovery. Another one was how so interestingly enough, 68% of the audience was meditating, which is rare. Our audience
Yeah.
or baseline is around 14%, so there's a huge gap there too. And what is interesting is it led to a better performance across their impact compared with the other
Interesting.
population that is not. And the last bit, I mean, there are many, many other findings, but this is what I remember. The last bit that was super interesting is we were able to, thanks to the data that was shared with us, we're able to see how when activating the 7 pillars, these organizations could unlock what we call resonant growth, which is
Mm.
bringing in the coherence together, raising the coherence throughout a team or the organization would allow a certain level of coherence to really take place and activate an automatic momentum around the organization and the team. So much so that we were able to derive, to estimate what would be a normal growth compared with a resonant growth. And if I'm not mistaken, for $100 million company, we were seeing an increase of revenue of 40% over 5 years, something like that,
Wow.
which was very interesting. So anyway,
Yeah.
all that is available. I can give you the link and everybody can go and have more information
Oh,
about it.
thank you. And so I obviously I haven't looked at all of it, but one statistic that I saw someone quote from your baseline data is that inner joy, when across all leaders, was only 43%. That there were a lot of successful people who aren't joyful. And that, in my mind, is a crisis. And when I think about like what is happening in their businesses and their teams and their decision makings when they are lacking joy, how do you see that play out when you find leaders who are in that position?
Sadly, no. I mean,
Yeah, I can imagine.
I guess, it all goes in par anyway. When there is no joy, there is probably no peace around as well. Inner
Yes,
peace, I'm talking. I'm not talking.
right,
And if there is no inner peace, therefore presence is a bit weak as well. And so the outcome in terms of decision making is not optimal because
right.
the individuals, the leaders, are first taking, they are starting. A decision is taken from an intention, and that if that intention is not placed in presence, at peace with oneself, and in the joy of living one's vision, for instance,
Yeah,
or the company's vision, then obviously the action, which is to say, okay, this is my decision, and enacting it with your team, is not going to be optimal, going to the uptick towards more expansion. It's going to go slightly average. Not saying that it's going to go down. The outcome is going to be still good, but not as it could have been. And so it really invites us to really look inside and decide what is it that we want to live. Because in the end, why is it that we are always looking as outside
yeah.
our reality to feel accordingly to that? That doesn't
Hmm.
make much sense, does it? What if we make a new choice and we start to live from a place of embodiment, of groundedness, of presence, of peace, of joy, and then we play with whatever comes?
Yeah,
Uh, that's a much better experience and a much better outcome too for everyone involved. And
right.
that's really the choice we all have. Do we want to be subservient to the reality of any kind, to these circumstances, or take agency, sovereignty, and make our own choices?
Hmm.
And you can tell me, yes, but the world is doing this and this and that. Yes, and you still can make a choice.
Yes.
Sorry. Uh, and that's the thing. So how do I still want to be on autopilot and continue to be living in that how the world tells me to be,
Hmm.
or I start to really make a choice about myself and how I decide I want to live the world?
Yeah,
I would definitely take the second one, but that's me. And
absolutely.
so then after that, we're here to provide the tools and the pathway, and then it's up to each person to decide if they want to go in that direction. But
Yeah. So speaking of that, do you have an example of maybe a company that you worked with and kind of what the tangible outcomes were for them when they decided to engage you, and then the entire team decided to actually make some conscious shifts?
yes, we do. So we have on the website a business case as well of a company. We are still working with them after 2 years, I think. But the business case is about 1 year of growth, and they were able to. So we worked with the two co-founders and then the rest of the team, 15 people total, and we were able to observe not only according to our Heart Leadership Index, a 10-point growth on that scale across 1 year for 15 people, which is quite a big
Yeah.
shift from our viewpoint in any case. And then the other bit also, so that was the coherence aspect. On the impact aspect, the CEO claims still that heart leadership is a competitive advantage for hiring and in general. And they
Mhm.
were able and the data is, I think end of the measurement was end of 2024, so it's not that old.
Yeah.
They were able to grow 600% during that year. So it's a startup. So obviously we have numbers, but their value was multiplied by 3 in that year.
Wow.
And that, so it's not too bad. Uh,
Not at
uh,
all.
no. So yeah, great numbers. Another company that we are working, but just with the founder, has been able to become their market leader in 4 years, I think, and
Oh, wow.
about fintech. So market leader in fintech is something important. Uh,
Absolutely.
so
And I also wanted to, I know we're talking about the Heart Institute, but you mentioned earlier some of your work with Give Nation and that you're teaching children to become financially literate and philanthropists through blockchain powered financial literacy, and that you have specific programs for BIPOC women entrepreneurs and underserved communities. So, can you talk about some of the things that you've seen from that work and kind of what your favorite part about that project is?
thank you. Yeah, we have like 2 stages or 2 aspects, right? The
Okay.
first one, helping kids, which is historical. And so we developed a curriculum helping children to raise their awareness related to Sustainable Development Goals of the UN and how to give money to charities while learning how to manage money. And we created a curriculum around that, and where it is being taught in different countries in Europe at the moment, and it's exciting to see the kids enjoying that and
Yeah.
learning skills. We have yet to scale it further, and I was waiting for the institute to get a little bit more scope so that we can fuel that further. And so the second stage is embracing further and supporting underserved communities, because in that objective of helping 1 billion people to connect to their heart, it is really, the Institute is a public benefit corporation. It has that purpose of
Okay.
offering that to the world as much as we can. And as we work with corporations, each time we train a leader in the corporation, we train also a leader in underserved communities. And it's very exciting because this way we give them the tools that allows them to really flourish further and
Yeah.
faster. And so we're very excited to see how we are going to be able to push that further in the state of New York first. That's our first target, and then grow it across the US.
That's awesome. Love to hear about the entire spectrum of your work. And another piece that I wanted to inquire about is the heart economy movement. And so, where you've talked about having global chapters in different cities, and that you have a goal of engaging 1,000 leaders to create an alternative to extractive capitalism. So, can you talk about that program as well?
Yeah, that's an extension of what we're currently doing. I mean, I would love to live a world where heart leaders that are leaders in their own rights, most probably are leaders in corporations or entrepreneurs, share the same understanding of life, and from that place of presence, peace, and so on and so forth that I mentioned earlier, and create with life together
Yeah.
amazing things, right? So as we expand our online community, because we have a community of leaders that practice the 7 pillars or the Heartful method, and then we have corporate tracks. And
Okay.
so all that together, as we grow further, we are building up chapters in different cities that they can meet together and practice together. And at the same time, why not start to enact and embody a heart-led economy, meaning
Hmm.
one that is, of course, it is about impact, right? Because what heart leadership is about in the end, it's about being one with the flow of life. So
Yes.
that can feel maybe a bit conceptual or esoteric
Hmm.
even, but I mean, let's look at it from a very common sense standpoint. When to take a very simple example, when I go to work, the experience is much better if there's no car on the street, right?
Yes,
Than when there's a traffic jam. I think that's not a bad statement at all.
absolutely.
So, so flowing with life, because this going to the office without traffic jam is really flow. We like to flow. That's our nature. The same like the river flows, right? The water flows. It doesn't like the dam. Dam is like stop. No, we like to
Hmm.
flow. So flowing with life in whatever it is that we're doing, some people call it miracle, but it's actually just being part of the flow without necessarily separating myself from it and living.
Yeah.
That is full of joy. I was discussing with a person that sings at Carnegie Hall in choirs, and to have that experience of being part of this amazing sound that is being produced by me and the others is flow, the flow of life. And that's being in unity with the rest of life is amazing. So fostering that in our day to day is not a bad experience anyway, right? And so having an economy that is in flow with all the societal needs, including nature, including all the different
Mhm.
dimensions of what it is to be a human being, is not a bad idea either, because
Yeah.
it's the flow of life. And so the heart economy is about that. It's really to embody fully, wholeheartedly our business, because it's part of, our embodiment here. It's a business too. And use it obviously as a force of good, because there's no good or bad. We're just part of that flow, and life is always benevolent. I believe this is a constant, that life is really pronoia. And then go from there, live from that place onwards.
And I think that will really resonate with people listening. And I would love to know that if there's a founder who's listening right now and they feel like they're struggling with this kind of tension between like profit and values, it feels like they're compromising one to achieve the other. What would you say to them, and what do they need to understand about how these things actually relate?
That's a deep question. How many hours do we have?
You're like, I need a lecture series to fully
Uh,
address the
yeah,
question.
yeah, it's a beautiful question. I mean, the short answer is follow your heart, always.
Mm,
That's the short answer. The the fight that the person is experiencing, the one that, the struggle that one is
yeah.
experiencing between values and profits, in the end, it's about something else. It is about
Mm,
maybe, I mean, it could be about, on one side, I am making money, but making money is dirty or whatever, and I'm eventing right now, and values feels nice, but then
yeah.
I don't dare, because then I won't be able to make more money because of that, which is, I'm sorry to say, but this is just a beautiful view of the mind, and it has absolutely no ground whatsoever. What if you could live fully your purpose, which happens to be exactly where you will be thriving personally and
Mhm.
financially, and so on and so forth? And it is about that. I mean, for me, 12 years ago, I didn't know where I was going technically. Yes,
Mhm.
making money, fine, great. And there was something more important that was emerging within me that needed to be expressed. And therefore, I followed that. And that has been a rocky road in so many different aspects. But then again, as that grew, that became a reality. And therefore, the finance went with it, and prosperity went along with it, and so on and so forth. So maybe, I guess the question I would ask to that audience is, what if you take a little bit of time, a
Yeah.
few minutes, an hour, and figure out within you, what is this really about? What is actually what you really, 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 really want to do? Or
Mhm.
not what you want to do, but more what you are pushed to do. What is, but like a inner nudge, right? Not something that
Mhm.
social conventions expect you to do, but more like something that is within you, that needs to be expressed,
Yeah.
and follow that. So it is follow your heart. It is following that core melody, that is the core tune of you, that essence that is looking to express itself through you because you are life too. And foster that, listen to it, and then nurture it. And when you're kindling a fire, you put a bit of woods, but small woods first, and then it grows. But
Mm-hmm.
same thing. Let's give it a little bit of chance to express itself, and you will see, guaranteed, that both will come together. There's no question about it. Now, you may be facing yourself many times over on that process, but to be in a much better way than before anyway, and much more fun. So,
Yes.
and you can always come and see us, and we'll accompany you on that journey without a problem, of course.
Well, I think that yeah, is a wonderful way to start to wrap things up is with an action step that everyone listening can take. So tell us more about how guests can find you and work with you if this is really resonating with them and they're thinking, okay, I need to take a deeper dive.
Yeah, with pleasure. I mean, you can go to our website, tapuat.com, Tapuat, which, by the way, means eternal rebirth in Hopi language. And that's why I chose that name. And so there, you whether want to work one-on-one with us, or join a cohort of independent leaders through our community, or we can work with your company and your team directly as well. We can start just with the numbers to establish a baseline in the company, and then go from there, and build up a bespoke program that will help you and your team to get into more coherence. Or we start, simply first having a first sprint together, one-on-one, and then we go from there. Anything is possible. So very happy to be with more people wanting to lead from the heart.
Yes. Thank you so much, Arnaud. Arnaud is living proof that you don't have to choose between financial success and spiritual depth, and that, in fact, integrating both might be your competitive advantage. If today's conversation resonated with you, like Arnold said, you can explore his work at the Heart Leadership Institute, tapuat.com, learn about the Heart Economy movement at hearteconomy.org, or discover how Give Nation is creating the next generation of conscious philanthropists. And if you're ready to measure what really matters at your organization, check out the Heart Leadership Index. Arnaud, I just want to thank you for bringing such rigor and wisdom and heart to this work. I think this conversation is going to be exactly what some of our listeners needed.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for having me, and for such an amazing preparation. Thank you.
Oh, of course. And to our listeners, if this conversation resonated with you, here's what you can do. Subscribe to the Purpose Profit Shift wherever you listen to podcasts. We've got episodes dropping regularly with more visionary founders and change makers who are reshaping how business gets done. And if you found value in today's episode, leave us a rating and review. It helps other values-driven leaders find us. Until next time, keep leading with intention, scaling responsibly, and building businesses that matter. I'm Rachel Bernier Green, and this is the Purpose Profit Shift.